All right, everybody, shop's cleaned up. Just thought I'd do some final thoughts. I kind of rushed through that last test cut video. I got my bench cleaned up, wrote down some notes, myself a little cheat sheet to work off of. All right, it's 6:30. Um, I can't believe I had to set some lights up outside to do some test cuts. All right, so here's where I'm at with this. I've got an OEM cylinder on this Neotec kit. While I had the jug in my hand, I went ahead and did some light modification, just reshaped the exhaust port, widened it. I mean, just a whisper. I wouldn't call this ported by any stretch. Just cleaned it up a little bit. The muffler, I did have to port match. The opening was not even close to what the factory port was. I didn't do any grinding on the exterior of the port, of the exhaust port. So bear that in mind when you put this muffler on there. It's going to need a little bit of grinding, otherwise you're going to constrict your exhaust or your exhaust port. I did add a highway dual port cover. That cover weighs twice as much as this muffler. It's very, very lightweight. Pressure and vacuum test went great. Held plenty of pressure, plenty of vacuum. No issues there, so that was a good bottom end assembly. I guess just for durability, and because I had a few, I've done some MS660s with an unlimited coil, so I had a couple of MS661 coils. Actually worked out just fine. One of the legs doesn't bolt down, but two of them do, and that works fine. And I really thought about that after I looked at the coil wire that came with this. It's not just the outside insulation on the coil wire, but the core wires that are in there are just enough to get it done. So I just thought for longevity and not having to go back and fool with that. I was really concerned about the oil pump. It was very tight when I took it out of the package. Now they actually packed it in a little bit of grease. Everything was greased, and it was pretty stiff. Worked it back and forth a little bit first, but like I said, the worm gear was an incredibly tight fit on the crankshaft, so that had to be relieved a little bit. The clutch, I think a couple of you folks that have done these have said the same thing. The springs broke. When I fired it up and it was at a decent idle, I saw the chain just surge a little bit, not much, but it is definitely an indication. I felt the springs and the clutch feels somewhat tight, but it's not tight like a fresh one. I think some of the highway ones are actually a little bit better. We'll see. I did want to touch on this. And it's not just the filter that comes with this kit. I've noticed a lot of the aftermarket filters, and I'll bring this over there so you can hear it. It rattles around in here. Sorry, my hand probably got too close to the camera. Look, I work on chainsaws, man. I do my damnedest to try and make a video. That porous stone or whatever that's in there as the actual filtered medium is too short in this. This lets a fair amount of particulate by. I've seen a lot of these fuel filters installed, and then the mesh screen on the inside of the carburetor will have trash in it, and a lot of times that's not good, because whatever gets past that screen circulates to the rest of the carburetor, and you'll end up with either a bad carburetor or something that's got a bug that's finicky to idle. So don't use these. I think Stihl, the new orange OEM filters like this that are tight micron and high flow are like $5 or $6 at the counter. So that was a good call. The fuel line, I was surprised. It seemed to seal. The fuel cap seals. The chain brake assembly, I did not use this little knee, I guess. Husky calls it a knee, but that's your fulcrum when you engage and disengage the brake. It's really light duty, and I don't know how close I can get in there and look at that, but for a safety component, I would not trust that. I did have to relieve the case around the oil pump down where the adjustment screw is. It was a little proud right there, just took my Fordham and just massaged a little bit of more clearance right there. And then the small spring that goes on the arm lever underneath that, there's a little piece of meat right there underneath that spring. The spring stood up like this and it would not engage, or you couldn't get it hooked to that lower fulcrum arm. Let's see. The starter, I've seen several people say that the starters had issues, and I can confirm that. When I put it together, I just made sure that it was super tight on there and it was locked down tighter than Dick's hat band. After I ran it and just did a couple of test cuts before I made the video, I could hear the spool scraping on the air shroud. So I shut it down, came in here, took it apart. While I was there, I replaced the spring that holds the two dogs' paws in place. The one that comes on this, it flexes and bends too easy. I feel like that's going to be a breaking point. So that center stud that the spools, the rotors sits on, I backed that out. They put some Loctite on it, but evidently the Loctite isn't that good. So I put some red Loctite on it, drove it back in there. Hopefully that doesn't come out anymore. Again, I'm surprised. And they tout this is a good carburetor. It actually is. You get good feedback. You turn the screw a little bit, you get a small adjustment. At first I was a little concerned. Now I preset this to one turnout, both low and high. Just seated the both high and low screws, needle adjustments, and then backed it out one turn. The other thing to keep in mind is that the low speed adjustment was cranked way in. It was 3/4 out on the taper that controls that butterfly. I brought it back to about halfway of that taper on the adjustment screw. You'll see when you got the carburetor in your hand. And actually I got it fired right away. I didn't have to prime it. I didn't have to do anything. That in itself was pretty impressive. I was, feverishly trying to put this together and get this project done in one day. And I was pleasantly surprised that when I pulled the cord, I think that third time it popped off. The air filter got damaged. These aren't that great flow-wise, but they'll do. Some of the old ones had a foam base on here. This has got a hard rubber. Looks like it did its job. Nothing got in, but there is a crack in the corner of it, if you can see that. So I'll have to find another air filter to go on here before I do any real cutting. Somebody else mentioned, one of the guys that built one of these, or bought one fully assembled, the little badge on top. That's definitely going to have to be glued down, a little 2-part epoxy or something. But I mean, so I'm fortunate enough to have some used parts laying around. Some of the things weren't absolutely positively necessary, but to be able to go out there and pull the cord and it actually run and cut without issue, and perform like a 660 would, small spend above and beyond, you're still way ahead. Like I said, tax tag, everything, delivery. I won this at auction. I think it was like $204 or $5. Tax, shipping to my door was $252 and some change. So even if you got to throw a little bit at it, I will tell you the top wrap handle on here, this is one of the lighter duty ones. I think Highway makes a better, more sturdy. I wouldn't put this in a commercial setting. As soon as this bar got pinched or, you know, bound and somebody yanks on this, this thing's gonna fold. I hope you enjoyed it. I've had fun with it. You know, we've done a few of these at Masterminds over the years when he's had his get-togethers. We've done a couple of the box saw build-offs. And, you know, this one really wasn't that much of a headache. But I think as a community, if we all share, you know, what we had issues with, it makes, you know, a build easier, or, you know, when something breaks, you may already just go ahead and replace something before it breaks, and get to enjoy your saw like you should, instead of it being the bane of your existence. I did pull the muffler, and let me see if I can get a little bit of light in here. Might be too much light. Let's see if it'll. Yeah, you can see just in that corner right there, I relieved that and reshaped it. I did take the baffle, just ground the spot welds down. You know, a little bit of performance there. No spark screen. And from the factory, this lightweight muffler's actually got a pretty healthy opening, as well as the regular front cover has got a small detent in it for a little bit extra flow. Let me get that there. Anyway, I think I've got long-winded enough, but there it is. I need to run it some more. Obviously, that was just first cuts. Just get it done and get it out the door, and we'll play with it for a little while, let some folks run it and see how it holds up. There really anything I'm concerned about. Like I said, the bearings in the bottom end and the seals seem to be good quality for Chinesium. So nothing more than just to run it and put some tanks through it and see how it comes along. Maybe we'll do some more performance work to it and do some lathe and machine work to the rest of the cylinder. But the factory numbers for that were good. You can look at, I think that's in part 4. But we timed it out. Maybe it's part 3. I forgot. Anyway, enough talking. Y'all have a great night. Thanks.